I was in court when the judge gave my mom 3 years for kidnapping my little brother from his dad. I watched her shoulders collapse forward when the bailiff read the sentence. 3 years in state prison for custodial interference, contempt of court, and violation of a protection order. My little brother Liam wasn't even in the courtroom. He was somewhere with his father, the man my mom had spent 2 years trying to protect him from. The man whose lawyer stood up now with a satisfied smile, shaking hands with the prosecutor like they'd just closed a business deal. I was 17, sitting in the gallery with my Aunt Diane, who kept squeezing my hand so hard my fingers went numb. Mom turned to look at me one last time before they led her away. Her eyes weren't apologetic or resigned. They were terrified, not for herself, but for Liam. She mouthed something I couldn't quite read. Then the bailiff's hand was on her elbow, guiding her toward the side door. The courtroom door closed behind her with a sound like a coffin lid dropping. Liam's father, Kenneth Barlow, stood up and buttoned his suit jacket. He was tall, well-dressed, the kind of man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom making decisions about other people's lives. He'd testified for 4 hours the previous week, describing how my mom had violated their custody agreement, how she disappeared with Liam for 8 months, how he'd searched desperately for his son. The judge had eaten it up, every word. What the judge hadn't heard was the rest of the story. The part where Liam started having nightmares 3 months after moving in with Kenneth. The part where he stopped eating and lost 12 pounds in 6 weeks. The part where he begged Mom not to send him back after visits, clinging to her legs and screaming until his voice went hoarse. Mom had documented everything. Photos of bruises Kenneth explained away as playground accidents. Recordings of Liam describing things that happened at Kenneth's house in a flat, emotionless voice that didn't sound like a 6-year-old. Medical records showing repeated visits to urgent care for injuries Kenneth said came from Liam being clumsy. She'd taken it all to her lawyer, who'd taken it to family court, where a judge reviewed the evidence and ruled it insufficient. Insufficient. That word had haunted our house for months. Kenneth had money, a respected position as a financial consultant, character witnesses who testified to his patience and dedication as a father. Mom was a dental hygienist working 50 hours a week to afford her legal fees. The system weighed credibility on a scale that had nothing to do with truth. After that ruling, Mom had 2 choices: send Liam back to Kenneth for extended visitation, or run. She chose to run. We left in the middle of the night. Everything we could fit in Mom's old Subaru. I'd been 15 then, still in high school, and suddenly we were living in a motel 2 states away with fake names and cash-only transactions. Those 8 months were the happiest I'd seen Liam since the divorce. He laughed again, started eating normally. The nightmares stopped after a few weeks. Mom enrolled him in a new school under a different last name, and he made friends, joined the soccer team, acted like a regular kid. I watched him transform from this hollow, frightened shell back into my little brother. Mom worked under the table at a dentist's office that didn't ask too many questions. I got my GED online and picked up shifts at a diner. It wasn't legal, it wasn't sustainable, but Liam was safe. Then Kenneth's private investigator found us. Mom came home from work one afternoon to find 2 police cars parked outside our motel. They arrested her right there in the parking lot while Liam watched from the window of our room. I held him while he screamed for her, his small body shaking so hard I thought he might break apart. They took him that same day, put him in a car with Kenneth, who'd flown in the moment he got the call. Kenneth didn't even look at Liam when the social worker transferred custody. Just signed the paperwork and told his lawyer to handle the details. That was 6 months ago. Now Mom was going to prison, and I was standing outside the courthouse with Aunt Diane, who was crying into her hands. "We have to do something," I said. My voice sounded strange, too calm for what I was feeling. "There's nothing we can do." Diane wiped her eyes. "The judge made his ruling. Your mom broke the law. She was protecting him. I know that. You know that. But the court doesn't care." Diane pulled out her phone. "I need to call your grandmother. She's going to want to know." I walked away while she made the call. Down the courthouse steps, past the reporters who'd covered the trial, past Kenneth's lawyer who was giving a statement about justice being served and the importance of respecting custody agreements. My hands were shaking. Not from fear or sadness, from rage so intense it made my vision narrow. Kenneth was getting into a black sedan parked at the curb. I moved without thinking, crossing the street toward him. "Mr. Barlow." He turned, his expression shifting from neutral to annoyed when he recognized me. "Riley, I'm sorry about your mother, but she brought this on herself. Where's Liam?" "That's not your concern. He's my brother." "Where is he?" Kenneth's jaw tightened. "He's with his father, where he belongs. If you attempt to contact him or interfere in any way, I'll file for a restraining order. Are we clear?" I wanted to hit him. Wanted to scream about everything Liam had told us, everything Mom had documented, everything the court had ignored. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. "Say that again." "About filing a restraining order if I try to contact my own brother." Kenneth's eyes narrowed. "Put that away. You're afraid of being recorded? Interesting." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Your mother poisoned Liam against me, filled his head with lies because she couldn't handle the divorce. Everything he said was rehearsed, coached, fabricated, The court saw through it, even if you can't. Liam had bruises. Children get bruises. He's active. He plays rough. Your mother turned normal childhood injuries into some kind of conspiracy. He lost 12 pounds in 6 weeks. He was adjusting to a new routine. Kids are resilient. The way he said it, so casual and dismissive, made something crack inside my chest. This man genuinely believed his own narrative, or he was psychopathic enough to sell it completely. Either way, Liam was with him now, and there was nothing I could legally do about it. Kenneth got into his car. The window rolled down. I'm not a monster, Riley. I love my son. In time, once your mother's influence is removed, he'll understand that. He'll be happy. The car pulled away. I stood there on the sidewalk, my phone still recording, until Diane came up behind me and put her hand on my shoulder. We should go home. Home. Mom's apartment. Where Liam's drawings still covered the refrigerator. Where his soccer cleats sat by the door because he'd forgotten them the morning Kenneth took him. Where everything smelled like the three of us trying to be a family despite everything working against us. I couldn't go back there yet. Not with Mom's sentencing still echoing in my head. I need to walk, I told Diane. She looked uncertain. Riley, you shouldn't be alone right now. I'll be fine. I'll call you later. I started walking before she could argue, heading toward the river that ran through downtown. My phone buzzed. Text from my best friend Autumn. Saw the news. I'm so sorry. Call me if you need anything. I shoved the phone in my pocket. The river path was mostly empty, just a few joggers and people walking dogs. I sat on a bench and stared at the water. Mom had been so careful. She'd documented everything, followed every legal channel, done everything right, and it hadn't mattered. Kenneth had better lawyers, more money, and a narrative the system wanted to believe. Devoted father seeking custody of his son from an unstable ex-wife. The fact that Liam was terrified of him became evidence of parental alienation rather than abuse. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Riley Holloway? A woman's voice, professional but urgent. Yes. Who is this? My name is Dr. Vanessa Chen. I'm calling from Mercy Children's Hospital. Your brother Liam was brought in about an hour ago. Everything stopped. The river, the joggers, my own heartbeat. What happened? I can't discuss details over the phone, but you're listed as his emergency contact in our system from a previous visit. Can you come to the hospital? I was already running. Is he okay? He's stable, but he's asking for you and your mother. How soon can you get here? 15 minutes. I hung up and called Diane while I ran back toward the courthouse parking lot. She answered on the first ring. Riley, what? Liam's in the hospital. Mercy Children's. I need a ride. Oh my God. I'm at the parking garage. I'll pick you up at the front entrance. She was there in 3 minutes, her face pale. I climbed into her car and she pulled out into traffic, going 10 over the speed limit. What happened? I don't know. The doctor wouldn't say. Diane's hands gripped the steering wheel. Did they say if he was hurt? If it was serious? She said he's stable. That's all I know. The 15-minute drive took 11. Diane pulled up to the emergency entrance and I was out of the car before she'd fully stopped. The ER waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. I went straight to the desk. I'm Riley Holloway. I got a call about my brother, Liam Holloway Barlow. The receptionist checked her computer. Room 7 in the pediatric wing. 3rd floor, turn right off the elevators. I took the stairs 2 at a time. 3rd floor, right turn, room 7. Dr. Chen was standing outside talking to a nurse. She looked up when I approached, her expression carefully neutral. Riley? Where is he? Is he okay? He's resting. Before you go in, I need to explain what we found. She gestured to a small consultation room. I didn't want to sit down. Didn't want to hear whatever careful, clinical explanation was about to come out of her mouth. But Diane had caught up, and she guided me into the room. Dr. Chen closed the door. Liam was brought in by his father around 3 this afternoon. He was unconscious, and Mr. Barlow reported that Liam had fallen down the stairs at home. When we examined him, we found injuries consistent with that fall. A concussion, bruised ribs, a fractured wrist. However, we also found older injuries. Healing fractures in his left arm and right leg, bruises in various stages of healing, and some scarring that suggests repeated trauma. My vision tunneled. How old are the injuries? Weeks to months, based on the healing stages. I've already contacted Child Protective Services. They're sending someone to interview Liam once he wakes up. And I need to ask you something. She paused. Your mother documented concerns about abuse before she fled with Liam. Did she keep those records? Yes. Photos, recordings, medical documentation. She submitted it all to the court. Do you have access to those files? They're at home. Why? Because what I'm seeing today matches the pattern your mother described. If CPS has that historical documentation, it strengthens the case significantly. Diane spoke up, her voice shaking. The court ruled it was insufficient evidence. They said Kenneth was a good father. Dr. Chen's expression hardened. Courts make mistakes. Medical evidence doesn't lie. Liam has injuries that tell a story, and it's not the one his father is selling. I've seen cases like this before. Children caught in custody battles where the abuser is charismatic enough, wealthy enough, connected enough to convince a judge that the protective parent is the problem. It makes me sick every time. Can I see him? I asked. Yes, but be prepared. He's scared and he's confused. He kept asking for your mother. I told him she couldn't be here right now, and he got very upset. I had to sedate him lightly to keep him calm. She led me to Liam's room. He looked so small in the hospital bed, one arm in a cast, a bandage on his forehead. His eyes were closed. I sat in the chair next to the bed and took his good hand. His fingers twitched. Liam? His eyes opened slowly. It took a moment for them to focus on me. Riley? I'm here, buddy. I'm right here. Where's Mom? The question hit like a punch. How did I explain to a 6-year-old that our mother was being taken to prison while he was lying here with broken bones? She can't be here right now, but she sent me. She wanted me to tell you she loves you so much. Tears started rolling down his cheeks. I fell down the stairs. That's what I'm supposed to say. I fell down the stairs. Liam, what really happened? He looked at the door, then back at me. His voice dropped to a whisper. He gets mad when I talk about Mom, when I say I miss her. He says she's a liar and a criminal, and I'm not allowed to love her anymore. But I do. I love her so much. I know you do. He said if I keep talking about her, he'll make sure I never see her again. Ever. Not even when I'm grown up. So I try not to talk about her, but sometimes I forget and say her name and he gets so mad. My chest felt like it was caving in. Did he push you down the stairs? Liam's eyes went wide with panic. I fell down the stairs. Liam, you can tell me the truth. I promise you won't get in trouble. I fell, he repeated, louder now. That's what happened. I fell. Dr. Chen stepped forward and put a gentle hand on my shoulder. Let him rest. We'll have time for questions later. I squeezed Liam's hand. It's okay. You rest. I'm going to stay right here. He closed his eyes, but his grip on my hand didn't loosen. I looked at Dr. Chen. Where's Kenneth now? He left about 20 minutes before I called you. Said he had to attend to some business and would return in a few hours. He left his 6-year-old son alone in the hospital. I thought it was strange too. Hospital security has been instructed not to let him take Liam until CPS completes their evaluation. A social worker arrived 30 minutes later. Her name was Patricia Vaughn, and she had the worn-down look of someone who'd seen too much and believed too little. She introduced herself, asked Liam some gentle questions he answered in monosyllables, then pulled me and Diane into the hallway. I've reviewed the medical report. I'm opening an investigation into the home environment. Until that's complete, Liam will need to be placed in temporary protective custody. With us, I said immediately. With his family. Patricia looked uncomfortable. You're a minor. I'm sorry, but you don't qualify as a placement option. My mother has custody. She's his legal guardian. Your mother is currently incarcerated for custodial interference. That complicates things significantly. She was protecting him from this. I gestured toward Liam's room. From exactly what's happening right now. And the court sent her to prison for it. I understand your frustration, but I can't make placement decisions based on emotional arguments. I need to follow protocol. Liam will likely go to a foster home tonight while we complete the investigation. No. The word came out harder than I intended. He just got out of an abusive home. You're going to put him with strangers? Temporary foster care is designed to keep children safe. While he won't be safe, he'll be terrified. He needs to be with family. Diane spoke up. I'm his aunt. I have custody of Riley. I have a 3-bedroom house and a stable income. I can take Liam. Patricia looked at her properly for the first time. You're the maternal aunt? Yes. I'm already Riley's legal guardian while their mother is incarcerated. Adding Liam to that arrangement makes sense. I'll need to complete a home study. Background check, interview, safety assessment. That takes time. How much time? 3 to 5 business days minimum. I thought about Liam spending 3 to 5 days in a stranger's house, thinking we'd abandoned him the same way the court system had abandoned him to Kenneth. Can he stay here? In the hospital? Dr. Chen had been standing nearby, listening. I can justify keeping him for observation given the head injury. 72 hours at most. That gives us 3 days, I said to Patricia. 3 days to complete whatever assessment you need. Please, he's already been through so much. Patricia looked between us, then at the door to Liam's room. I'll expedite the process, but I can't make any promises. If there are any red flags in the home study, he goes to foster care. Those are the rules. There won't be red flags, Diane said firmly. We'll do whatever you need. Patricia pulled out a tablet and started taking notes. I'll need employment verification, financial statements, references, and a full background check. Can you have that ready by tomorrow morning? Yes. I'll schedule the home visit for tomorrow afternoon. In the meantime, Liam stays here under hospital supervision. One family member can stay with him overnight. I'll stay, I said. Patricia nodded. I'll file the emergency placement petition tonight. But you should know, Kenneth Barlow has legal custody. If he objects to this arrangement, he has every right to take Liam home once he's medically cleared. Even with the investigation? The investigation is preliminary. Until we have concrete evidence of abuse, his custody rights remain intact. I wanted to scream, wanted to flip over the nurse's station, throw chairs through windows, do something to break through the suffocating weight of all these rules and procedures that protected abusers and punished victims. Instead, I walked back into Liam's room and sat in the chair next to his bed. Diane went home to start gathering documents for Patricia. Dr. Chen brought me a pillow and blanket. The hospital lights dimmed for the night shift. Liam slept fitfully, whimpering sometimes, reaching for me in his sleep. I held his hand and thought about Mom sitting in a cell somewhere, not knowing if her son was alive or dead. Kenneth showed up at 8 the next morning. I heard his voice in the hallway before I saw him, talking to someone about hospital incompetence and keeping him informed. He walked into Liam's room like he owned it, his lawyer right behind him. "Riley, I wasn't aware you'd been contacted. Dr. Chen called me. I'm his emergency contact." "Interesting. I don't recall authorizing that." He looked at Liam, who'd gone very still and quiet. "How are you feeling, son?" Liam didn't answer. Kenneth's smile tightened. "The doctor tells me you're doing well. That's good. We'll get you home soon." "He's not going home with you," I said. Kenneth turned to face me. "Excuse me?" "CPS opened an investigation. Liam stays here until it's complete." "On what grounds?" "The grounds of multiple injuries that don't match your story about falling downstairs." Kenneth's lawyer stepped forward. "My client has fully cooperated with hospital staff. Accidents happen, especially with active children. There's no evidence of abuse. His medical records tell a different story. Medical records can be misinterpreted. My client has been nothing but forthcoming about Liam's injuries. If anything, this investigation is harassment driven by a vindictive family member angry about a custody ruling." I stood up. "You broke his arm, his leg. You beat a 6-year-old child and then coached him to lie about it." "That's defamatory," the lawyer said sharply. "My client will not tolerate baseless accusations." "They're not baseless. Ask the doctor. Ask CPS. Ask Liam." Kenneth looked at his son. "Liam, tell them what happened. You fell down the stairs at home, didn't you?" Liam's eyes were huge. He looked at Kenneth, then at me, then back to Kenneth. His whole body was trembling. "I fell down the stairs." "See?" Kenneth's voice was calm, reasonable. "He's confirming what I told the hospital staff yesterday. This is exactly the kind of parental alienation your mother engaged in, teaching him to lie, to be afraid of his own father." Dr. Chen walked in, interrupting before I could respond. "Mr. Barlow, I need to examine Liam. Visiting hours don't start until 9. I'm going to have to ask you to step outside." Kenneth's jaw clenched. "I'm his father. I don't need visiting hours. Hospital policy applies to everyone. I'll let you know when the examination is complete." She held the door open, making it clear they needed to leave. Kenneth looked like he wanted to argue, but his lawyer touched his arm. "We'll be back in an hour. Make sure my son is ready to be discharged by then." They left. Dr. Chen closed the door and leaned against it. "That man gives me chills. He terrifies Liam." "I know. I saw how he reacted when his father walked in. That level of fear isn't normal." She came over to Liam's bed. "Hey, buddy, how are you feeling this morning?" Liam didn't answer, just stared at the ceiling. "Does your head hurt? Your wrist?" "Nothing." Dr. Chen looked at me. "Has he been like this all morning?" "Since Kenneth walked in. He was talking to me before that." She checked Liam's vitals, made notes on her tablet. "The CPS investigator is coming back this afternoon. I'm going to recommend he stay here for the full 72 hours. His injuries need monitoring, and frankly, I don't trust his father not to interfere with the investigation." "Can you prevent Kenneth from taking him?" "Not legally, no, but I can make it medically inadvisable. A concussion requires observation. If I'm concerned about his cognitive function or emotional state, I can justify keeping him here." "Thank you. I'm not doing this out of kindness, Riley. I'm doing it because I think your mother was right. I think Kenneth is abusing Liam, and I think the system failed to protect him. I won't be part of that failure." She left to file her medical recommendation. Liam finally looked at me. "Is he coming back? Kenneth?" "Probably. I don't want to go home with him. I want to stay with you and Mom. Mom can't be here right now, but Aunt Diane is working on getting you to stay with us. It's going to take a few days. Will he let me?" It's not up to him, but it was. That was the problem. Kenneth had legal custody, and unless CPS found concrete, undeniable evidence of abuse, he could walk out of this hospital with Liam whenever he wanted. The weight of that reality sat on my chest like a stone. My phone buzzed. Text from Diane. "Background check clear. Gathering financial docs now. Patricia coming at 2 p.m. I showed Liam my phone. "See? Aunt Diane is getting everything ready so you can come stay with us." "What if he says no? Then we fight him." "How?" "Good question. How did you fight someone with money, lawyers, and the legal system backing him up? How did you protect someone when every institution designed to help had already failed?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound hollow, so I just held his hand and promised him we wouldn't give up. Patricia came back at noon with a police detective named Avery Quinn. He was in his 40s, looked tired, and carried himself with the careful neutrality of someone who'd learned not to trust anyone's story completely. "I'm investigating the circumstances around Liam's injuries," he said. "I need to ask him some questions. Are you his guardian?" "His sister. His mother is his legal guardian, but she's currently incarcerated. Aunt Diane is working on emergency placement." Quinn nodded. "I'll need to speak with Liam alone. He's 6. He needs someone with him. Standard protocol for child interviews. I need his uninfluenced account of what happened. His father already influenced him. He coached Liam to say he fell downstairs. I understand your concern, but I can't conduct a proper interview with family members present. It compromises the integrity of the investigation." I looked at Liam, who'd gone pale. "Can I at least explain to him what's happening?" Quinn considered, then nodded. I knelt next to Liam's bed. "This detective needs to ask you some questions about how you got hurt. I have to wait outside." but I'll be right in the hallway. You're not in trouble, and nothing you say will make anyone mad at you. Just tell him the truth, okay? Liam nodded, but he looked terrified. I left the room with Patricia. Through the window, I watched Quinn pull up a chair and start talking to Liam in a low, calm voice. This is taking too long, I said. The investigation has to be thorough, Patricia replied. If we rush it, Kenneth's lawyer will tear it apart in court. Liam has broken bones. How much more evidence do you need? Evidence that proves Kenneth caused them intentionally. Right now, all we have is a pattern of injuries and a father's explanation that they were accidents. Plenty of kids are clumsy. Plenty of kids get hurt. We need Liam to tell us, clearly and specifically, what happened. He's scared. Kenneth threatened him. Then we need to document that threat. Get Liam to say it on record. That's what Quinn is trying to do. 20 minutes later, Quinn came out. His expression was unreadable. Well? I asked. Liam maintains he fell down the stairs, says his father wasn't even home when it happened. Housekeeper found him and called Kenneth, who brought him to the hospital. My stomach dropped. That's not true. Kenneth was there. He had to be. According to Liam, Kenneth was at work. I've already contacted his office. They confirmed he was in a meeting until 2:30. The hospital admission time was 3:15. The timeline supports his story. Kenneth coached him. He's lying because he's afraid. I believe you. But belief isn't evidence. I need proof. And right now, I don't have it. Patricia's tablet buzzed. She looked at it and her expression fell. Kenneth's lawyer just filed an emergency motion to discharge Liam from the hospital into his father's care. He's claiming the hospital is holding him illegally, and we're engaging in targeted harassment. Can they do that? With the right judge, yes. The hearing is scheduled for 4 this afternoon. 3 hours. We had 3 hours before Kenneth could walk out with Liam, and the whole system would go back to pretending everything was fine. I pulled out my phone and opened the files Mom had saved to the cloud. Hundreds of photos, videos, audio recordings, documentation of every injury, every strange behavior, every terrified conversation. I'd looked through these files a dozen times, but now I studied them like my life depended on it, because Liam's life did. There had to be something here, something definitive enough to stop Kenneth. I found it in a video dated 6 weeks before Mom ran. Liam was sitting at our kitchen table, and Mom was asking him gentle questions about his weekend at Kenneth's house. Did you have fun with your dad? I guess. What did you do? He taught me a lesson about lying. What kind of lesson? Liam held up his arm. There was a clear bruise in the shape of adult fingers. He squeezed really hard. He said liars get punished, and if I told anyone about our lessons, the punishment would be worse. Mom's voice shook. What lessons, baby? How to be a good son. How to respect him. How to not talk about you. Does he hurt you during these lessons? Liam looked directly at the camera. He says it's not hurting if it's teaching, and I need to learn because I'm bad and stupid and I make him angry. The video cut off. My hands were shaking. This was it. Clear evidence of abuse in Liam's own words, with visible injuries to match. I forwarded the video to Patricia and Quinn. Watch this. It's from before Mom fled. She submitted it to the court, and they ignored it. Patricia pulled it up on her tablet. I watched her expression change as the video played. Quinn leaned over to watch, his face darkening. This was submitted as evidence? Everything Mom had was submitted. The judge said it wasn't enough, said kids could be coached, that bruises weren't conclusive, that Kenneth's character witnesses outweighed Mom's concerns. This is textbook documentation of physical and emotional abuse, Patricia said. Why the hell didn't someone act on this? Because Kenneth has money and connections, because the system is broken, because a mother trying to protect her son gets sent to prison while the father breaking his bones keeps custody. Quinn was scrolling through more files. There are dozens of videos here, medical records, photos, recordings. How did a judge look at all this and side with the father? Because she believed Kenneth's lawyer, who said Mom was a vindictive ex-wife engaging in parental alienation. They painted her as the abuser, coaching Liam to fear his father, and the judge bought it. Patricia's tablet buzzed again. Kenneth's lawyer is pushing for an immediate discharge, says keeping Liam here is kidnapping. Show them the video, I said. Show them the evidence and tell them to go to hell. It's not that simple. This evidence was already reviewed by a judge. Using it again requires filing a motion to reconsider, which takes time we don't have. Then what do we do? Quinn stood up. I'm going to that hearing. I'm going to show this video to the judge and explain why discharging Liam would be dangerous. It won't guarantee anything, but it's our best shot. The hearing was in the same courtroom where Mom had been sentenced. Different judge, same suffocating wood paneling and fluorescent lights. Kenneth sat at the defendant's table with his lawyer. His expression was one of patient suffering, a devoted father dealing with yet another obstacle thrown in his path by his vindictive ex-wife's family. The judge was a woman in her 50s, named Justice Cordelia Brennan. She reviewed the motion with a critical eye, then looked at Patricia and Quinn. I'm told there are concerns about this child's safety. What evidence supports keeping him from his legal guardian? Quinn stood. Your Honor, I've reviewed documentation originally submitted in the custody case that shows a clear pattern of abuse. The current injuries are consistent with that pattern. I've brought video evidence that I believe is relevant to this decision. This evidence was already reviewed by Judge Matheson, Kenneth's lawyer said. He found it insufficient. This is a waste of the court's time. Judge Matheson made his ruling before Liam ended up in the hospital with a concussion and fractured wrist, Quinn countered. New injuries warrant a new review of historical evidence, Justice Brennan considered. I'll view the video, but I want to be clear, Detective. If this is the same evidence already deemed insufficient, my ability to act on it is limited. Custody decisions aren't easily overturned. Quinn set up his laptop and played the video. The courtroom went silent as Liam's small voice described his father's lessons. Kenneth's face remained carefully neutral, but I saw his hands tighten into fists. When the video ended, Justice Brennan sat back. This is disturbing. Why wasn't this given more weight in the original custody decision? I can't speak to another judge's reasoning, Your Honor, but I can say that combined with Liam's current injuries, it establishes a pattern that needs investigation. My client has already explained those injuries, Kenneth's lawyer said. The child fell downstairs. Accidents happen. This video shows nothing but a coached response from a child manipulated by his mother. The bruises in that video are clearly shaped like adult fingers, Quinn said. That's not coaching. That's physical evidence. Kenneth's lawyer opened his mouth to argue, but Justice Brennan held up her hand. I'm going to order a full investigation by CPS. Until that investigation is complete, Liam remains in protective custody. Mr. Barlow, your visitation will be supervised only. Kenneth stood abruptly. This is absurd. I've done nothing wrong. Sit down, Mr. Barlow. Justice Brennan's voice was ice. I've just watched a video of your son describing physical punishment and showing visible injuries. Whether or not that rises to criminal abuse is for investigators to determine. But I will not send a child home to a potentially dangerous situation while that determination is being made. I have legal custody. You can't just take my son away. I can, and I am. Temporary protective custody pending investigation. The order is effective immediately. She signed the paperwork with sharp, decisive movements. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks for a status hearing. Detective Quinn, I want a full report on my desk before then. Ms. Vaughn, I want that home study completed for the aunt's placement petition. Clear? Yes, Your Honor, they said in unison. Kenneth's lawyer started to protest, but Justice Brennan cut him off. Your client can file an appeal if he disagrees with my ruling. This hearing is adjourned. She stood and left through the back door. Kenneth turned to look at me. The mask of patient suffering had cracked. What showed underneath was cold rage. You have no idea what you've just done. I stopped you from taking Liam home to hurt him again. I love my son. Everything I do is for his benefit. Your mother poisoned him against me, and now you're continuing her work. But you're a child yourself. You have no legal standing, no authority. This won't last. His lawyer pulled him toward the exit. We'll file the appeal today. This isn't over. They left. I sat down hard in the gallery seat, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. Patricia came over. 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks to build a case that keeps Liam away from Kenneth permanently. The home study for your aunt's placement needs to be flawless. Any issues, any concerns, and Kenneth's appeal gains weight. There won't be any issues. I'll complete the assessment tomorrow. If everything checks out, I can file for emergency placement by end of business. That gets Liam out of the hospital and into your home while the investigation continues. Quinn joined us. I'm going to need you to go through all your mother's documentation with me. Every photo, every video, every medical record. I need to build a timeline that shows the pattern clearly enough that even Kenneth's lawyer can't explain it away. How long will that take? Days, maybe a week if I rush it. We'll need expert testimony from doctors, child psychologists, anyone who can speak to whether these injuries could reasonably be accidents. They're not accidents, I know, but I need to prove it in a way that holds up in court. That means methodical, documented evidence. No gaps, no ambiguity. We went back to the hospital. Liam was sitting up in bed, talking quietly with Dr. Chen. He looked up when I walked in, hope written across his face. Am I staying with you? Yes. The judge said you're staying with me and Aunt Diane while they investigate Kenneth. The relief that flooded his expression nearly broke me. He'd been holding that fear inside, trying to be brave, and now it poured out in shaking sobs. I sat on the bed and held him while he cried. Dr. Chen stepped back, giving us privacy. I don't want to go back there, Liam whispered. I don't want to see him ever again. You won't have to. Not unless you want to. I never want to. He's mean. He hurts me and says it's because he loves me, but that's not what love is. Love is you and Mom. Love is Aunt Diane. Love doesn't hurt. No, it doesn't. Dr. Chen cleared her throat gently. I'm going to recommend Liam stay one more night for observation. That gives Patricia time to complete the home study and file the paperwork. He can be discharged directly into your aunt's care tomorrow. That night, I slept in the chair next to Liam's bed again. Diane came by with a change of clothes and food that actually tasted like something other than hospital cafeteria sadness. She'd spent the day cleaning her house, setting up a bedroom for Liam, buying him new clothes and toys. I want him to feel safe, she said. I want him to know this is his home for as long as he needs it. Patricia came the next morning at 9. She spent 3 hours at Diane's house, inspecting every room, checking smoke detectors, asking questions about schedules and childcare arrangements. Diane answered everything with calm precision. She'd prepared for this like it was a final exam her nephew's life depended on, because it was. Patricia left with a promise to file the paperwork by noon. At 1, she called to confirm, emergency placement approved. Liam could come home. I brought him to Diane's house in a hospital wheelchair, his cast signed by nurses who'd grown attached to him over the past few days. Diane had bought a cake that said, "Welcome home," in blue frosting. Liam's eyes went wide when he saw it. "For me? For you, buddy." Diane knelt down to his level. "This is your home now, for as long as you need it. Your room is upstairs, second door on the right." Riley helped me set it up. We went upstairs. The room had a race car bed, shelves full of books, a window overlooking the backyard. Liam walked around slowly, touching everything like he was afraid it might disappear. "This is mine, all yours." He sat on the bed and started crying. Not sad tears, but the kind that come when something breaks open inside you and relief floods through. Diane and I sat on either side of him, and we just stayed there while he processed everything. That night, Liam asked if he could call Mom. Diane and I exchanged looks. We'd been avoiding this conversation, trying to figure out how to explain why Mom wasn't here without destroying him. "Mom's not able to talk right now," I said carefully. "Why not? She's somewhere she can't have her phone. Is she okay?" "She's safe, and she's thinking about you all the time. She made me promise to take care of you." Liam was quiet for a long moment. "Is she in jail?" The question hit like a slap. "How did you know that?" "Kenneth told me. He said Mom went to jail because she's a criminal who stole me from my real family. He said she'll never get out, and I'll never see her again." I wanted to find Kenneth and make him feel a fraction of the pain he'd inflicted on a 6-year-old child. Instead, I took a breath and chose my words carefully. "Mom is in jail, but she's not a criminal. She's there because she tried to protect you from Kenneth. She knew he was hurting you, and the court didn't believe her, so she took you somewhere safe. She broke the law to keep you safe. So she's in jail because of me? No. She's in jail because the system failed. Because sometimes doing the right thing means breaking rules, and there are consequences for that. But Mom knew those consequences when she chose to protect you. She'd do it again in a heartbeat. Can I write her a letter? I think she'd love that." Diane found paper and crayons. Liam drew a picture of the three of us holding hands, with hearts floating around our heads. At the top, in careful first-grade handwriting, he wrote, "I love you, Mom. Thank you for saving me." We mailed it the next morning. I didn't know if Mom would get it, didn't know what the prison's mail policies were, but sending it felt important, like we were fighting back against the narrative Kenneth had tried to build. The investigation continued. Quinn interviewed neighbors, teachers, Kenneth's ex-wife from his first marriage. A pattern emerged. Kenneth was charming in public, controlled, and demanding in private. His first wife had left after 2 years, citing emotional abuse. She'd never reported it because Kenneth had connections, and she was afraid no one would believe her. She agreed to testify now, seeing a chance to finally expose what he'd hidden. CPS interviewed Liam 3 more times over the following weeks. Each time, he opened up a little more, describing the lessons Kenneth had taught him through pain, the rules he had to follow, the punishments for minor infractions. Child psychologists reviewed his statements and confirmed they were consistent with abuse, not coaching. The medical evidence stacked up: healing fractures, bruises in various stages, injuries that didn't match Kenneth's explanations of accidents. Expert witnesses lined up to testify that the pattern suggested repeated, intentional harm. Kenneth's lawyer fought every step, filed motions, demanded reconsideration, accused everyone involved of bias and conspiracy. But the evidence kept mounting, and Justice Brennan wasn't swayed. 2 weeks after the emergency custody hearing, we reconvened for the status update. Quinn presented his full report: timeline of injuries, expert testimony, witness statements. Patricia submitted the completed home study showing Diane's home was safe, stable, and appropriate for long-term placement. Kenneth's lawyer argued that his client was being railroaded by a vindictive family and an overzealous detective. Justice Brennan read through the reports in silence. Then she looked at Kenneth. "Mr. Barlow, I've reviewed Detective Quinn's investigation. The evidence suggests a pattern of physical abuse spanning at least 18 months. I'm terminating your custody rights pending criminal investigation. If you're charged and convicted, this termination will become permanent." Kenneth's face went white. "You can't do that." "I just did." "Liam remains in his aunt's custody. You're entitled to supervised visitation only, and only if Liam agrees to see you. Which brings me to my next point." She turned to Patricia. "Has anyone asked Liam what he wants? He's expressed clearly that he doesn't want contact with his father. Then there will be no visitation until and unless Liam requests it. Mr. Barlow, you have the right to appeal this decision. But given the circumstances, I strongly advise you to focus your energy on the criminal investigation rather than fighting a custody battle you're unlikely to win." Kenneth stood abruptly. "This is a travesty. I've done nothing but love my son. Love doesn't leave bruises, Mr. Barlow." Court adjourned. I sat in the gallery, processing what had just happened. Kenneth had lost custody. Liam was safe. We'd actually won. Diane grabbed my hand, squeezing hard enough to hurt. Patricia came over. "This is rare. Justice Brennan went further than I expected, but the evidence was overwhelming. What happens now?" "The criminal investigation continues. If charges are filed, there will be a trial. In the meantime, Liam stays with you. I'll check in monthly to make sure the placement is working, but based on what I've seen, there won't be any issues. Quinn approached. I'm recommending charges. Multiple counts of child abuse, endangerment, assault. The DA will make the final call, but I think we have a solid case. How long until that decision? Weeks, maybe months. These things take time, but Kenneth won't have access to Liam during that process. That's what matters. Kenneth left with his lawyer, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. He looked at me one last time, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. This wasn't over for him. He wasn't going to accept this quietly. 3 days later, Kenneth's lawyer filed an appeal. Justice Brennan's ruling was contested on grounds of insufficient evidence, biased investigation, and procedural errors. The appeal would take months to process, but in the meantime, the custody termination stood. Liam started therapy with a trauma specialist. Slowly, carefully, he began unpacking everything that had happened. The nightmares came back for a while, but they were different now. Instead of being trapped and helpless, he fought back, saved himself, woke up knowing he was safe. I started working with a victim's rights attorney named Sylvia Roth to explore options for getting Mom's sentence reduced. The evidence that had convicted her, the argument that she was interfering with Kenneth's custody rights, looked very different now that Kenneth's abuse was documented. It's not impossible, Sylvia said during our first meeting. We'd need to file a motion for sentence reconsideration based on new evidence. Show that your mother's actions were justified, that she was protecting Liam from documented harm. But it's complicated. The court doesn't like admitting it got things wrong. They sent her to prison for protecting her son from an abuser. How is that not wrong? I agree with you. But legally, she still violated a custody order. Even if that violation was morally justified, it was illegal. We're asking the court to show leniency based on circumstances they didn't fully understand at the time. That's a hard sell. How hard? I've seen cases like this go either way. Sometimes the system corrects itself. Sometimes it doubles down to protect its original decision. We won't know until we try. Then let's try. Sylvia filed the motion 3 weeks later. It included all of Quinn's investigation reports, the medical evidence, testimony from experts and witnesses. She argued that Mom's actions had been vindicated by subsequent events and that her sentence should be reduced or vacated entirely. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, life found a strange new normal. Liam went to school, made friends, played soccer. Diane's house became our home in a way Mom's apartment never quite had. We were rebuilding piece by piece. Mom called from prison one evening. We'd been trying to get through for weeks, dealing with the complicated bureaucracy of inmate communication. When Diane's phone rang and the automated voice said, "You have a collect call from an inmate at Sterling Women's Correctional Facility," my heart nearly stopped. "Riley?" Mom's voice was rough, like she'd been crying. "Yeah, it's me. Liam's here too. Do you want to talk to him? Is he okay? I heard about the hospital, about Kenneth. Nobody would tell me what happened. He's okay. He's safe. Kenneth lost custody. Liam's with us now." I heard her breath hitch. "Really?" "Really. Justice Brennan terminated Kenneth's rights. He can't touch Liam anymore." "Oh my God." She was crying openly now. "I knew I was right. I knew I wasn't crazy. But I was so scared, Riley. So scared I'd made everything worse. You saved him, Mom. What you did, running with him, gave us time to build a case. The evidence you documented is what convinced the court. You were right about everything. Can I talk to him? Please?" I handed the phone to Liam. He took it with shaking hands. "Mom?" Whatever she said made him start crying. Happy tears, I thought. Relief tears. "I love you too," Liam whispered. "I love you so much. Riley and Aunt Diane take good care of me. We're waiting for you to come home." They talked for 10 minutes before the automated system cut them off. Liam handed the phone back, his expression lighter than I'd seen in months. "She says she's proud of me. For being brave. You were brave. You are brave." The weeks passed. Kenneth's criminal trial was scheduled for 8 months out. His appeal of the custody termination was denied. Justice Brennan's ruling stood. Quinn's investigation had been thorough, the evidence overwhelming. Even Kenneth's expensive lawyers couldn't explain away the medical records and witness testimony. Mom's reconsideration hearing arrived on a cold morning in January. We sat in the same courtroom where she'd been sentenced, but this time Justice Brennan was presiding instead of the judge who'd sent her to prison. Sylvia presented the case methodically. "Here's what happened. Here's what we know now. Here's why the original sentence was unjust, given the circumstances." The prosecutor argued that regardless of circumstances, Mom had violated a court order and needed to face consequences for that. Justice Brennan listened to both sides, reviewed the evidence, then sat back. "This is a complicated case. Ms. Holloway violated a custody order. That's not in dispute. However, the evidence now shows she had legitimate cause to believe her son was in danger. The court failed to recognize that danger initially, and she made a choice between following the law and protecting her child." She paused. "I'm going to reduce her sentence to time served plus 6-month supervised probation. She'll be released immediately with conditions: regular check-ins with a probation officer, continued cooperation with CPS, and mandatory family counseling. If she completes probation without incident, her record will be eligible for expungement." I couldn't breathe. Released immediately. Mom was coming home. Sylvia squeezed my shoulder. We won. They brought Mom in from the holding area 20 minutes later. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, her hair longer and graying at the temples. But when she saw Liam, everything else fell away. She dropped to her knees and he ran to her. They held each other in the middle of the courtroom, crying, and nobody moved to stop them. This moment, this reunion, was what justice actually looked like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. After everything, after the system failed and corrected itself and stumbled towards something resembling fairness, we were together. Diane drove us home, Mom in the front seat, me and Liam in the back. Liam wouldn't let go of Mom's hand, reaching between the seats to hold on. Mom looked at the house when we pulled up. "This is Diane's place?" "It's our place now," I said. "Diane took guardianship of both of us while you were gone. This is home." We went inside. The house smelled like Diane's cooking, like safety and warmth and all the things we'd been missing. Mom sat on the couch and Liam curled up next to her, his head on her shoulder. "I'm sorry," Mom said, "for all of it, for not being able to protect you before, for leaving you to deal with everything while I was locked up." "You did protect me," Liam said. "You ran away with me so I'd be safe. And then Riley and Aunt Diane protected me when you couldn't. We're a team." "Yeah," Mom kissed the top of his head. "We're a team." That night, we sat around Diane's dinner table, all four of us together for the first time in nearly a year. Liam told Mom about school, about soccer, about his new friends. Mom told us about the other women she'd met in prison, many of them there for similar reasons. Protecting their kids from abusers, the system failed to stop. We didn't talk about Kenneth. He existed in our past, facing trial, his reputation destroyed. Whatever happened to him now was outside our control. Liam's therapy continued. Mom started her own counseling, processing the trauma of imprisonment and the guilt of not being there when Liam was hospitalized. I went back to school, finished my senior year, applied to colleges. Diane became not just our aunt, but our anchor, the person who'd held everything together when it felt like the world was falling apart. Kenneth's trial happened 9 months later. We didn't attend, didn't need to see him again or hear his lawyers try to explain away the evidence. Quinn called after the verdict, guilty on multiple counts, 15 years minimum. "He'll appeal," Quinn said. "They always do. But the evidence was solid. I don't see him winning." Good. That single word carried the weight of everything we'd survived. Kenneth had tried to destroy us, had nearly succeeded, but we'd fought back with documentation, persistence, and refusal to let the system's failures be the final word. Mom's probation ended after 6 months of flawless compliance. Her record was expunged as promised. She found a new job at a dental office that didn't ask too many questions about the gap in her employment history. We moved into our own place eventually, a small house near Diane's where Liam had his own room and Mom could rebuild her life. But we spent most evenings at Diane's, the four of us together, choosing family over isolation. Liam grew, started middle school, joined the debate team, became the kind of kid who stood up for others, who recognized when someone was being hurt and refused to look away. The abuse had marked him, changed him, but it hadn't broken him. He'd survived, and in surviving, he'd learned something about strength that most people never understand. Mom and I talked one evening while Liam was at a friend's house. We sat on the porch, watching the sun set, not saying much. Finally, she spoke. "Do you hate me? For everything that happened?" "No. I put you through hell, made you deal with things no 17-year-old should have to face. You did what you had to do. And you were right. Kenneth was dangerous, and nobody believed you. I'm glad you ran. Glad you protected Liam even when it meant sacrificing yourself. The system failed him. The system fails a lot of kids. But we didn't. We fought for him, and we won." Mom leaned against my shoulder. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the time I watched my mother get sentenced to prison for protecting her son. Perspective comes fast when nothing makes sense anymore." We sat in silence. The sun dropped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere in that fading light, there was meaning. Justice wasn't perfect, wasn't guaranteed, wasn't even reliable. But sometimes if you fought hard enough and refused to give up, it showed up anyway. Flawed and incomplete, but real. Liam came home an hour later, full of stories about his friend's new video game. Mom made dinner. Diane came over with dessert. We ate together, laughing at Liam's impressions of his math teacher, making plans for the weekend. This was what we'd fought for. Not dramatic vindication or perfect resolution, but ordinary moments with the people we loved. The ability to sit around a table without fear, to laugh without checking over our shoulders, to be a family without someone trying to tear us apart. Kenneth existed somewhere in a prison cell, his reputation destroyed, his freedom gone. I didn't think about him often, didn't need to. He'd lost everything that mattered, and we'd gained everything he tried to take from us. That was justice enough. Years would pass. Liam would graduate high school, go to college, build a life. I'd become a social worker, helping other families navigate the same broken system that had failed us. Mom would grow old, surrounded by grandkids, her sacrifice redeemed by the family she'd saved. But in that moment, sitting around Diane's table with the people I loved most, I understood something fundamental. Survival isn't about winning cleanly or fixing everything. It's about refusing to break, even when breaking would be easier. It's about fighting for the people who matter, even when the odds are impossible. And sometimes, if you're lucky and stubborn enough, that fight is enough.